Welcome back, everybody. I'm super excited for this video, and I'll try not to have a 2-month hiatus between this one and the next one. But this marks the return of the Collector's Diary, and this is the 2013 edition, where we look at every item I have bought and sold in the year of 2013. If you don't know already, I have been buying, selling, collecting video games for over 10 years now, and I wrote down every single purchase and sale that I did in my spreadsheets. So what we're going to do is hop into a mini little time capsule here and go back to the year 2013 to see what video game prices were like back then, what my big scores were, what my big losses were, and how the rare, sought after, and collectible games have changed over the years. Just to set the stage a little bit, I would have been 19 years old at the time, turning 20 in that summer. I was still in university at the time, this would have been my second year, so I didn't have a ton of excess money, but I always kept my expenses super low, so I always had money to be buying and selling. And I was still working as a janitor in the schools, which paid about $17 an hour. Which, I mean, not bad all things considered if you can deal with being a janitor in a high school. You do what you have to do to make it work. But anyways, let's swap over to the spreadsheet and get into it. This column right here is going to represent the price that I paid for the item. This will be what I sold it for, or if I had an existing item already, I would have sold that and kept the upgrade. This column is either how much I lost or how much I profited on it. And over here I wrote down everything I kept from the individual transaction. Alright, so right here off the bat, 2013, we can see that I bought a factory sealed Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness on GameCube, the not for resale bundle, so it came out of the console bundle, but it was factory sealed for $38. So you can see that in the year of 2013, things were a little bit different. Now, I know for a fact that I got this below retail at the time. I think retail was closer to $60, and you can see that I did eventually grade this copy, and it did grade VGA 85+, and I still do own it to this day, 8 years later. And I know at one point in time, I did actually try to sell this game, and I turned down an eBay offer of $222. I can't remember what year that would have been, though. Here's another interesting one where I was just going for a resale. I bought the Jungle Book factory sealed on NES, which is actually one of the harder to find late release NES games. You can see I paid $125, sold it off for $160, and made a modest profit of $35. And keep this in mind if you're thinking about reselling yourself, they're not all going to be these amazing deals, especially when you're starting out, right? I was 19 at the time, so maybe it only took me 1 or 2 hours to fully do this transaction, and it just helps to build up your initial bankroll. Right here, Beast Wars Transmetals, this was not the first one I bought, but you can see that I purchased it again at a good price, and I was able to upgrade my manual. It's always so important to upgrade these actual rare items. You always want to be upgrading this stuff. Here again, another example of me just upgrading. I was able to pick this up for $99, the Final Fantasy III complete in box, and all I did was upgrade my box and map and sell the old components. So the one that I kept on to, my personal collection one, is in very good condition, and is now worth a premium due to that. Here's a nice little example of a game bundle you could get at the time. We're getting Mario World, Super Mario Kart, Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, All-Stars, and 2 controllers for $30. Okay, so here January ends with a bit of a bang. I bought a Pokemon Stadium 2 in VGA 85+ condition, and this is an item that I was just hoping to flip and make some money on. And you can see that I paid $420, and I was only able to sell it for $290. Now, I know I didn't hold on to this item for a long time. I probably tried to sell it a month or two after I bought it, and I was wrong, right? There's no other way to put it. I was simply wrong about how much value it had. I thought I got a deal on it, and I was wrong. And you're gonna learn, if you do stuff like this, that there are gonna be instances where you fuck up. It's inevitable. Obviously, I wish I would have just held on to Pokemon Stadium 2, given its price now. Right underneath it, though, you can see I made a successful transaction where I bought 2 factory sealed Donkey Kong 64s, and I graded one of them into a VGA 90, and I sold both of them eventually for $650. So for the VGA 90 Donkey Kong 64, I'm pretty sure I got $430 at open auction, which at the time was a really good sale for Donkey Kong. I wasn't even expecting to get that much. I actually had to run the auction twice because the first time I ran the auction, the person didn't even pay for it. So we're talking $400 for a VGA 90 Donkey Kong 64 and the buyer backs out. And that's just because graded games had not exploded at all. It was a very niche market. To get $400 for it, right, I was super happy. You can see that I sold both of them and made $220 profit, which, like, that's a fantastic one. Again, though, I currently do not own a factory sealed Donkey Kong 64, and I really wish I would have kept one. Those are both games, the Pokemon Stadium 2 and the Donkey Kong 64. I wish I would have held on to them. That sucks. For the month of January, you can see that I put out $2,000, I brought back $2,044, and we profited $4,150. As well as that, we also kept all of these items on the side here. So I kept the Pokemon XD, I upgraded the manual, I upgraded Secura Wars. So that's how this works. Moving into February here, you can see that I started off the month by doing a Mega Man 7 complete in box purchase for $200. And the only reason I bought that was to upgrade my own cartridge. 2013 also is when I started getting more interested in Game Boy Advance games, and this was because the older markets like NES, Super Nintendo, and N64 were already getting kind of expensive. Relatively expensive, right? It's all relative. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna beat the market to GBA. So right here in this purchase, you can see that I grabbed Jurassic Park 3 Park Editor and Summon Night Swordcraft Story 1 and 2. And at this time, since I didn't have a lot of money, I couldn't keep everything. So a lot of the time I would purposely buy a bundle and I would have to sell certain items out of it. I just had to. So for the cost of $23.50, I was able to get Summon Night Swordcraft Story 1 and 2 box and manual. There were no cartridges. But still, when you're collecting, getting the box and manual is far more important than getting the cartridge because the cartridges are dime a dozen. But getting a nice box and manual is actually quite difficult on a lot of games regardless of the generation. So just keep that in mind too. If you can ever sell the cartridge and keep the box and manual, you might want to do that. So like I said, I was getting into Game Boy Advance here, and we can see that this is where I made my first big Game Boy Advance purchase. This included factory sealed games, Summon Night Swordcraft Story 1 and 2, Zelda 4 Swords factory sealed, we have Fire Emblem, the first one, factory sealed, Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 factory sealed, Final Fantasy Tactics factory sealed, and Drill Dozer and Sword of Mana. And then inside of there, you also had all of those complete in box games. So overall here, there are 1, 2, 10, 11, 4, 25. So overall, there are 26 games here, and all premium titles, right? You can read through this list. There's really no junk in there. And they cost me roughly $30 a game as a bundle, which is just incredible, really. Even looking at it now, that just seems cheap at $620. And out of this bundle, right, what I did was keep everything that was factory sealed, and I tried to sell off the complete in box games. But even then, I kept a lot of the complete in box as well. And that is reflected down here when we look at the total for February, which you can see I lost $670 that month. Or I spent it on my collection, is a better way to put it. Moving into March, we see the first time I did speculation on modern gen games. So in March of 2013, I bought 2 copies of Pandora's Tower on Wii, and I kept them factory sealed. One of them already I graded into a VGA 90, and you can see that I sold it for a measly $76. I don't remember which year I sold that, but it probably was 2014 or 2015. And I still have 1 copy of Pandora's Tower, which I actually sent off for grading just a few months ago. So we'll see what that comes back as, and we'll see what I can sell it for. And this example right here with Pandora's Tower, right? When people are telling me they're buying up modern gen games and I'm gonna buy this and in 10 years it's gonna be worth so much, look at how Pandora's Tower did. Look how many years it took for this game to get any kind of value. Most games are not going to appreciate as much as you think they will in an 8-year time span. That's what this tells me right here. Also in March here, we have a really cool one. Okay, this is for Swamp Thing on the NES and Swamp Thing on the Game Boy. And those in themselves, right? Both incredibly rare games that I wish I would have held on to. You can see that I bought them factory sealed and they graded VGA 85 Plus and VGA 90 respectively. Those are incredible grades on very hard to find games. And what makes these over the top cool, and I wish I would have held on to them, is that I actually bought them from an auction that was held by Howard Phillips. And if you're thinking, who's Howard Phillips? He worked for Nintendo in the 80s and 90s. He was a consultant, he was in the magazines, he was part of the face of Nintendo, and I wish I would have held on to the items just to have a piece of the provenance, the story. There's so much there that those ones I regret selling. At the time, I was really happy, obviously, to make $262, but, you know, 8 years later, I really regret selling these items that had such special meaning, even outside of just being rare games. The auction was held on Nintendo Age. Howard Phillips was a member there for a little bit. But you can see that due to selling those games, I did have a profitable March, so I'm sure at the time I was really happy with it. Sucks now, but that's how it goes. Alright, moving into April of 2013. You can see that I'm continuing my reign of Game Boy Advance here, picking up Super Robo Taisen 2 for $32, which graded VGA 90, and I also picked up Demi Kid's Lite version, which graded VGA 90 for $50. Like I said, in 2013 there weren't nearly as many people actually grading games, so you could buy raw games that were in mint condition. That was still a thing. Here's a Game Boy Advance rarity that was already graded. I picked up a Robopon 2 ring version in VGA 90 for $96 total. Nothing too interesting here in April. This one above, if you want to read through it, was a really big bundle purchase I made locally. And you can see that, I made a decent amount of money off it and kept a bunch of things. But moving into May, you can see that I bought 2 copies of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX on Game Boy Advance. And these are the white cover, not for resale versions that come out of the Ultimate Beginners Pack. So they're decently hard to find now. And I was trying to buy up these obscure games that I thought had a lot of rarity, rather than buying the mainstream Marios, Metroids, and games that people would actually want in the future. Now this here is one of my favorite purchases I ever made because it's for one of my favorite games ever. I bought a factory sealed Super C for NES for $163, and I was praying that it would get the 85 plus grade, and it did. So I was able to buy it raw, grade it 85 plus gold, and I have held it ever since. That one will be with me for a long, long, long time. And here's the other big NES purchase that came this month. Again, this was a personal collection purchase. I was not looking to resell this game. I bought a factory sealed Super Mario Bros. 3. And I'm pretty sure it actually came from the same seller as the Super C did. He was running auctions on eBay. So I was able to buy this again raw and grade it 85 plus condition. And the Mario 3 at the time cost me $253. And that was expensive, right? Like, I'm pretty sure I won this at open auction. So that's just the level of demand that existed back then. You can see again for May, right? Not much money spent, not much money brought in, and I did take a loss because I held on to the Super C and the Mario Bros. 3. As you're doing your buying and selling, you really have to make sure that you differentiate stuff between what you're going to keep for your personal collection versus what you're buying purely just to resell to keep the buying and selling going. So a lot of the time when I'm buying stuff, I know if I'm going to be selling it or not, and you just have to make sure you balance your investing and your reselling and your collecting to ensure that you can keep doing it. And here's a great example of what I'm just talking about as we move into the month of June. I bought a Lucian's Quest, complete in box on 3DO. I'm sure a lot of you have no idea what this game is. This is one of the premier games on the 3DO actually. I think it is actually a good game as well. But you can see I picked it up for $500 and it was in beautiful condition. And I was able to sell it for $673 and net a profit of $173, which is absolutely awesome at the time, considering most months total, I'm only spending $800. So if I can make $173 profit on a single buy and sell, that's insane. And this also illustrates that you have to cast a big net. If you want to find games continually and be buying and selling, you can't only be doing it for Nintendo Wii or only be doing it for Nintendo Switch, or you know what I mean? You need to learn a lot of consoles and be able to cast a very wide net when you're out hunting. Here, I finally bought a mainstream Game Boy Advance game. I picked up a Zelda Minish Cap in raw condition for $150, and it eventually graded to VGA 85 plus. I still own that to today. Here again, you can see that I sent off games for grading. I always do this periodically because I pick up a lot of factory sealed games, and when I send them off for grading, I am purposely going to keep some and sell some. I buy factory sealed games with the intention of grading them and selling them. It really helps to pay for the hobby by buying raw, grading, and selling them. I bought a factory sealed Soccer Kid on Game Boy Advance for $20. If you go a little bit deeper into the Game Boy Advance library, Soccer Kid factory sealed North American version is extremely rare. So to pick that up for $20 is a huge win that's going to go under the radar for a lot of people. I just want to point that out for you guys so that I can stroke my ego a bit. In June, you can see again, we took a loss mainly due to the grading fees, and this is going to be a recurring theme here because I was also collecting, right? So every month, although I'm trying to buy and sell as much as I can, I almost know that I'm going to take a loss every month because I'm keeping so much stuff because I love doing what I do. And that puts us at the halfway point for 2013. And I assumed I was going to have to cut this up into 2 videos, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. So make sure you check out the second half. We'll go over July to December and we'll see how 2013 ended up for me. As you can see, we already have some huge games under our belt. We've built the collection up a lot. So I'm excited to see what the second half of 2013 has to hold. Thanks for checking out this half, and I'll see you in part 2.